Welcome to the Pinning Combination Podcast. I'm KJ Pilcher alongside Dick Briggs, ready to tackle some of the results and happenings in the college and high school wrestling world this week. Coach Briggs, we are at real fun time of the year, really, when it comes to all levels.
Exactly, particularly at high school, obviously with the culmination of their season, boys high school. For some, the highlight was the district tournament in that, and we'll talk about this. Some that qualified, just qualifying in itself is their mountain that they got to land on top of, and that's not that they're not going to go down and compete, but they might be a lower seed, high teens in the 20s or whatever, and their chance of placing isn't real great, so they're kind of happy to just have qualified, and then the other ones obviously want to land on top of that podium.
Well, the interesting thing is, and it's not just wrestling. There are a lot of sports where probably the most tense and maybe the most nerve-wracking part isn't being at state, it's getting there. I know talking to baseball players and stuff that district or sub-state final was tougher to get through than actually going down and competing at state. There's a sense of, okay, we're there. Now it's see how far you can go, instead of, oh, I got to get there. Obviously there are elite competitors that aren't fazed by that on either side, but like you said, for the most part, there are some people that getting there was the biggest hurdle. Now it's going down there and a little icing on the cake maybe for them.
Right, and kudos to the Iowa High School Athletic Association for bumping up the qualifiers from 16 to 24. Yes, some of those lower seeds are not going to have much of a chance to place, but you'll see a lot that'll bust through and will place. And so that kind of helps even more enjoy that. And it doesn't hurt the association either, because now it maybe bumps up your attendance totals and so forth. So, so it's a win-win all the way around.
Now, the college is a little ways away from the national qualifiers and stuff, but there's still a lot of action on the mat here this last weekend. Iowa State, UNI having big duels. Let's start with the big one in Iowa City. Number 1 Penn State, number 3 Iowa last Friday. This was a second straight lopsided loss that Iowa suffered. I can't remember any time that I've covered, I started covering, 2009, 2010. I can't remember any type of discussion before an Iowa duel wondering when was the last time they got shut out. Because it was a legit question. I mean, with the way Penn State and Iowa matched up, Iowa coming off the loss to Michigan, but Iowa got a couple big wins from Drake Ayala and Caleb Rachi. But other than that, it was all Penn State.
Right, and two things. One, on that point, you're right. You and I discussed that last podcast that there was very much possibility of Iowa, not getting blanked and not winning a match. Now we both, I think, picked 2 wins, and that's where it ended up, with the possibility of more and obviously less. So that's not even a surprise. But the kids that did wrestle, and then the second point was what made this even more of a bizarre a thing was the dual meet score before the Iowa Penn State meet with Nebraska.
Oh yeah,
putting it to Michigan. So Iowa beats Nebraska pretty good. Nebraska beats Michigan pretty good, and Michigan beats Iowa pretty good. And so it's like I'm scratching my head going, what's going on here? So
Make it make sense, right?
yeah, and I'm like, this is crazy. I mean, other than Penn State's heads and above everyone, and then those three now are beating their heads against each other. So it was kind of crazy, But back to the Iowa meet, yeah, there's some. I thought Iowa competed though.
Did you?
They're out there at least shooting and trying to compete as much as you can against that stellar lineup. Like that
Yeah.
might be the best ever. We'll see.
You know, I thought I certainly thought like Glazier um held his own. That was one where not even a win, just to see how, he could stand in there with Brooks. Scoreless first, gave up a takedown, I think in the second, ended up losing 5-1. I believe. I think he showed he could hang in there a little bit. Um, I know Patrick Kennedy gave up a major decision, but you know, uh, and this is one of the reasons why I like Patrick Kennedy. He's a guy that he'll keep going. He's not backing down from anybody. He kept going after, kept battling with Strozzi all the way to the end. I saw a little bit of the fight from Caliendo, even though he got in a big early hole and stuff, but he fought off a major. Um, you know, and obviously Rachi and Ayala wrestled well. Um, but the rest of them, it was. I thought it was a little lackluster. I expected a little bit more, and I'm not sure why because Penn State's been doing this to everybody.
Right. And you're right. I think those are the matches that I was, in my mind, agreeing you with. It, at least they competed. And I'd even throw in Riggins. I mean, Riggins is an unranked
Yes,
wrestler
yes,
that's just getting out there. And he made Truex, to me, look ho hum. He looked, Truex was one time ranked second. He's now sixth, but, there's a guy that was ranked second in the nation that, had Kakaisen on the ropes in that All Star meet.
that's right.
So Riggins hung in there and wrestled tough with him. I thought, obviously didn't win and actually didn't even score a point, but I'm gonna at least give him a little love.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I mean, uh, I agree there. Let's talk a little bit about the two that did win. Ayala's coming off that tough loss to Michael D'Agostino. Davis has been wrestling really well. He was unbeaten until that match. Um, but the early slide by for a takedown, that was just key because you could just kind of see Ayala settle in like, okay, now he's got to come to me. Um, and just stayed in control. And, you know, I don't know if Davis has a dynamic offense to where, he can take a top guy down 2 or 3 times in a match. And,
Right.
you know,
And I agree with that slide by. That was really beautiful. And I was looking for it later on in the match, but I don't think the pressure was there. And it was good that he didn't force it. But because he hit that one, I think it put Davis in a defensive mode in that respect and wasn't
sure.
wasn't able to to penetrate really. And Ayala did a great job of fending off and looking busy and really
Yep.
there was not anything really close on that. I didn't think uh, in terms of Davis getting a takedown. So yeah,
Mhm.
good match, and that's good with
You know,
coming off those losses too.
yeah. And that was one of the things Tom Brand said afterwards. Uh, he needed that. That was a win he needed. You know, it's always good to have a short memory, and having success helps kind of erase some of those uh, thoughts and memories from when you're not successful. And I think that was a perfect answer after last week. Um, but what about Caleb Rachi?
Ooh,
Uh, I believe Iowa had 5 takedowns in the whole duel, and he had 3 of them. Uh, Tyler Kasich, they removed his red shirt. He's filling in after Van Ness was hurt and was lost for the season. So this was his first out of red shirt, I guess. And boy, Rachi was strong and on the attack early. Uh, you know, Tom Brands kind of mentioned it looked like he was fading. That was my thought. Like, oh man, he kind of uh, left it all out there, and he hit a smooth, really explosive high crotch there in sudden victory. Was able to kind of limp arm and finish. Um, but that okay. So I hate the term Iowa style. I understand what it's referring to. Obviously, growing up and watching, some of those Gable teams and the relentless, aggressive, punishing kind of style. But wrestling has evolved to the point where that's not that's not necessarily the most successful style, right? But I think what Rachi showed that a lot of people think about Iowa style is just the continued, just gut check, keep, staying on your offense, going at it, digging deep, winning late. And I think he did that. And I think that showed what I think a lot of people are missing.
Mhm.
When people are complaining about what they're seeing on the mat, I think it's that kind of style that they haven't seen a lot. You see it from Glazier. In certain matches, you get from Kennedy, Caliendo, but I don't think you see that consistently up and down the lineup to where they're being offensive, being aggressive, getting multiple shots in. I think he showed that form of Iowa style.
I would agree. Yeah, 100%. Being able to, because he had basically a takedown every period, first, second, and third period. And I think they were all high crotches. The downside of that match was he gave up 2 takedowns in the third period, which leads to everyone thinking, "Uh-oh, he's fading." And
Yeah.
and then he dug deep and got that third takedown for 11-8 win. But yeah, so yeah, exactly. Pouring it on, and when it's a tight match, winning it at the end, and when it's not a tight match, building it and getting majors and tech falls and such. That's what I think a lot of people think of as when they hear the Iowa style.
Now, back to back uh, team losses that they were down 15-0 before they even got their first win against Michigan, losing 8 bouts to Penn State. Is this something to be concerned about? Or is it just a bump in the road and you just kind of learn and move on?
Well, I think personally, learn to move on, and I think realistically, Iowa and Iowa coaches will never say this, but they have to set their goals at being number 2. I just think that Penn State's that good. They're that deep. They're a great dual and tournament team. Maybe even a better tournament team than dual team, if that's possible. And
Yeah.
so not that they're going to say, "All right, let's go get second place," but they've got to kind of keep their eye on that as the goal maybe. And if the opportunity for first opens up, yeah, jump all over it. But you do that by taking care of each of the 10 individuals that you're going to put out on the mat, making sure their head and their physical and their technique is down, and their weight and their nutrition is all under control, and all those things. So yeah, so right now you just put it behind you and you learn from it and move forward.
This weekend they face Wisconsin. No offense to Wisconsin, but quite a different um, challenge compared to last Friday, and even Michigan with their team the week before. So things should kind of get ironed out before they head down to Okie State the week after that. Senior Day, where they'll honor some seniors like Real Woods. Even though I think Glazier can come back for a COVID year, I believe. I'm sure he'll be, uh, part of that. Frenick, a senior as well. So uh, an opportunity to kind of honor some of those seniors in the lineup, and even the room guys that are key parts of the machine there. You got to have those guys in the room, and a lot of times they're not getting the immediate payback or whatever, with competition and wins and stuff like that, but they're doing it and working just as hard as anybody else. So be a great opportunity for fans and the staff and everybody to acknowledge their efforts.
KJ, will they be able to honor the wrestlers that lost their season in the gambling? The Nelson Brands and Cassiope and
I think they should. I think they should be able to. I think they will, just because they're still on the roster. They could compete at open competitions. So if those athletes are still around, I believe they can still honor, guys like Nelson Brands, Tony Cassiope, who are still around the team and in the practice room.
right. And
I think Abe Assad may have graduated and left.
right.
I think I saw pictures of him going through a graduation ceremony, and I haven't heard much about him going forward. So I don't know if he's still working out with the team and stuff. Same with Brennan. I know Brendan Swafford's still there.
I would hope those kids, that they are recognized, the Iowa fans and audiences would stand up and give them just a huge ovation, because man, I'm feeling for those guys. It's just a bad deal. Yeah. So
agreed. Let's move over to Ames Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. You had the Iowa State UNI duel. First, I want to preface this with what a weird schedule for UNI, having to go to Riverside, California on Friday, turn around and come back to Iowa. I believe they didn't take everybody to Cal Baptist for that duel. Kind of heard how that played out, where originally UNI was planning a trip out west to wrestle Cal Poly and Cal Baptist on the same kind of weekend trip. And then I think Cal Baptist kind of backed out or something, to where that wasn't going to be able to work, and then their competition date fell on this Friday, and UNI didn't really have much choice. So just kind of a scheduling fluke caused this, but UNI went out to Cal Baptist and won handily, and then got back to Ames for that duel on Sunday. But 6-4 split matches, but Iowa State with a lot of bonus points in their victory to win. What was it, 27-14?
right. And as far as the travel was concerned, I think I heard Coach Schwab say that he's got to do a better job of the scheduling issue, and he was taking a little bit of the not credit, but the heat for that,
Mm-hmm.
himself. So good, good for him. And if it's one of those things that just happened, I don't know how you combat it, but boy, that was not ideal at all. We talked about that on the last podcast, that it was not ideal at all for UNI. And even if you didn't travel, now you're separated from your team. You go into practices that you're going to have, when the team's away from you. Now it just changes the dynamic in the room, and it's not a good thing at all. So, yeah, that was not bad. But UNI did a nice job in some matches. Downey and Chittum. Well, that was the match I was looking forward to. at 57, and it didn't disappoint. That's ranked. I think Downey's 11th and Chittum was 10th. So right there, they're both with each other. Downey got a third period near fall to win it, and it was 12-9 was the score. So lots of points on the board. So
Yeah, right.
fun match if you're a Downey fan. Not maybe so much if you're Chittum, but it's a good match to watch and be entertained with. So.
Yeah, and even at 125, Trevor Anderson. I think that's a good win for him. That's something that could really kind of propel him forward. Um, Getting that win over Terrakina in sudden victory.
Did you happen to see the scramble at the end?
No.
Oh my gosh, it was so crazy. That was in sudden victory. The scramble, it was like, okay, Kyson has it, no Trevor has it, no back and forth, and it ended up Trevor just he did a pull a rabbit out of a hat sort of thing and got the takedown and to win it in overtime, 8-5. Good match.
Now, one of the things, so Evan Frost, obviously, very good on Sunday. Surprised to see that he had a technical fall over Farber, who I really do like. Swiderski with a technical fall, David Carr with a technical fall, MJ Gatan with a 10-2 major at 174, and then Younger Bastida with a technical fall. I'm gonna veer off onto a subject here really quick. With the 3-point takedown, they need to change the thresholds for these bonus point levels. Eight 8 points is just too easy now. Even 15, I think they need to go to a 10, 10, 17, or 18 type model. 10 for a major, 17 or 18 for a tech fall, maybe 17. But I think we're seeing a lot of these, and it's becoming too easy to hit that mark in certain matchups.
Right. I mean, 2 takedowns, an escape, and a riding time is a tech fall. 8-0.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. That's just too easy. I was thinking that in the Iowa meet when we were discussing the Iowa meet. It was almost said that. So you're reading my and it was just I for sure the major. The tech fall should also move as well, I think, but the major is just too darn easy. And we knew that. We said that right off the bat. There's going to be a whole lot. The major and technical fall records are going to go off the board. The previous ones, because they're going to blast through those. So on individual teams and such.
One of the big wins for Iowa State at 141. Anthony Echemendia in the lineup. Edges Kale Happel 9-6. So number 9 over number 6, depending on what rankings you can use. That's what Iowa State had. But that's a big win for Iowa State for Echemendia.
Right, and that was another third period takedown that iced the win there for Echemendia, and so you had that third period takedown in that match. You had the third period takedown or near fall in the Downey Chittum match, and then you had the sudden victory win for UNI at 25. So a lot of close matches in those first 4 or 5 matches.
Adam Aronson took the mat at heavyweight. Younger Bastida, that's two totally different levels, but Bastida took care of business. For Iowa State, if you had to point at somebody and say kind of the wrestler of the duel for them, who would you point to?
Well, I mean, because of strength of wrestler, I would go with Echemendia over Happel. But Bastida continues to impress. He's so darn good. I don't think this was much of a challenge for him, but
right.
Because of that, and obviously David Carr. I mean, David Carr's David Carr. But Etchemendia, I think, probably gets my vote.
Okay. All right. Uh, Certainly between him and Frost, just Frost's dominance over a good Farber too. I think it's close, but no, you nailed it right on the head. Edgemandia with that win over Happel had been wrestling so well. What about for UNI? Is it Anderson? You know, Wyatt Volker with a uh, takedown to win at 197. I think that's his fifth straight victory, which includes wins over Oklahoma State, um, Cal Baptist, Iowa State, West Virginia. I think is in there. Goes all the way back to dropping a match to a ranked Utah Valley kid. So Wyatt Volker's been wrestling well. You know, Keck Eisen with a major over Tate Nakaborn, who we both think will have a really good future coming up. But for UNI, who do you have?
Actually, Kaisen's win was a Tech Fall over
Yep.
Nocturne. Again, Kaisen's, put him in the David Carr category. He's just looked phenomenal this year, and he just keeps getting better and better. And I hope that guy doesn't stumble or anything along the way. How neat would that be to have an undefeated season national champ? That'd be so cool. Maybe I shouldn't even say that.
Yeah, right. Knock on wood. You got wood around.
I do.
Knock on wood. Throw some salt over your shoulder. Something.
So, but my vote goes to Ryder Downey if that went over Chittum.
Oh,
So I'm going to go with Downey.
yeah. No, that's. I agree wholeheartedly there. So, what do you think the biggest takeaways are if you're Kevin Dresser and Doug Schwab?
Well, if you're Dresser, keep it rolling, man, because they're ranked fourth in the nation right now and doing well. Obviously, they lost a couple of close ones in this. That's going to happen. Get with those athletes and the other athletes and talk through that and be able to. That was just a scramble that landed heads up for Anderson at 25. So credit both of those wrestlers for being in that position, and it's just a great little scramble there. And then so I would say just keep you're heading in the right direction. You're doing things well. For UNI, you won 4 out of the 10 matches. That's something to hang your hat on. You had a couple of upsets along there, mild ones or whatever, and so build on that. UNI has a couple of more holes in their lineup maybe than Iowa State. So their goals may be a little different. Iowa State's looking for a top 3 or 4 finish in the nation. I think UNI is probably looking for a top 10 finish. That they would be excited for that. So just keep your eye on that goal.
Now, here's the question. You kind of touched on it. Iowa State fourth in the dual rankings. We've seen them challenge Iowa. Oklahoma State was a little bit of a cushion there, but is Iowa State set up more for dual competition, or is this a team that could make a charge at the top 5 in the tournament format as well?
I think they have a shot at a top 5 finish.
Okay.
Whether they'll do it or not, I mean, Carr can win it. I think, but Bastida can win it.
Yeah.
Etchemendia is wrestling really well right now. Frost is wrestling well right now. I just if you get Terakina going and Swiderski, I think he's back he and Chittum are back in there, and those guys can also be place winners as well. So I think they have a run at the top 5. And they need to do a good job at the Big 12 because that's going to set them up for a higher seed. If they can knock off some of those Oklahoma State and other guys in the conference, that would put them at a higher seed and make their route to that podium a little bit easier, maybe.
Yeah, and you could possibly get get a little bit of a run depending on matchups from Swiderski and Chittum. To kind of support big points from Carr, Bastida, and what have you, and having that type of balance and everybody contributing, you know, points,
Mhm.
that could lift them over, another team that's kind of right in the hunt with them, kind of on that level, like a Virginia Tech or, Cornell or Michigan or what have you, kind of in that tier um, of teams after Penn State, Oklahoma State, Iowa, you know, uh, NC State, even.
Even
So,
Nebraska.
yeah, Nebraska as well.
Yeah.
So, Missouri,
Yeah.
so it's going to be a dogfight there, I think, from 2 to 10. Um, you know,
Hey,
so
I forget, does Iowa State, they have do they wrestle Missouri next, or does that UNI? I think
I believe it's I
I
believe
think
it's Iowa State, but
Iowa State. Okay.
let me double check on
I think it's
that
good.
here
But
really
my
quick.
point is that if it's Iowa State and Missouri, ooh, we got a match to look forward to at 165 then.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, Looking at what's it's actually you've got the same weekend. Um, Missouri makes a trip through Iowa. It's February 23rd at UNI, and then February 25th at Ames. So Friday,
Oh,
Sunday of that weekend, Missouri will hit the McLeod Center and then Hilton um, there. So
all
that'll
right.
be that's the weekend after uh, the state wrestling in Des Moines. So you got a week and a half before those pop up.
Well, I gotta believe that David Carr has had this on his calendar, that date on his.
Since maybe March, you
Yeah,
think?
I'm thinking. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be a good one there uh in Ames.
That's probably Iowa State's last home duel too, isn't it? So a lot of things on the line for David. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you imagine the emotions that could be running through there senior day is the last home duel, which it is. Um and of course they're off until that day. The last chance open that they host has been canceled um for this Sunday. So um, they're just getting ready for Missouri and then the Big 12s uh, after that. So
Hey, KJ, I have a question. Uh,
sure.
so I know a lot of people have asked me, and so I think you have more insight on it than I do. So I'm going to go back to Iowa meet
Okay.
with Keeter that was thrown in at heavyweight. A lot of people are questioning why that is, and so um, tell me about a wrestler needs to get so many matches to be considered for what?
Okay. So this is my understanding. Um, that with the wild card allocations, and there's a year where there are some individuals that only wrestled like one or two times during the regular season, yet they were still uh eligible for at larges if they didn't get the automatic one of the automatic berths at their conference qualifier. So now you have to have so many matches. I think it might be like five or six matches maybe. You at least have to get that many matches in to be able to qualify for an at-large bid if you don't get an automatic berth, or to be factored into the conference's um, automatic the national berth allocations.
Allocations,
So
yeah.
yeah, so So when they go through and see where your starters for your conference wrestlers are and where they're ranked, and they decide, okay, 180 or 174 in or 165 in the Big 12 should get 6 automatic berths, factoring in O'Toole, Carr, you know, and whoever else stands out there um,
Mm-hmm.
in the Big 12. If you don't have so many matches in by the time they get to that point, they can't factor you in. So if David Carr only had 2 matches, say, going into the Big 12 tournament, or when they decide on the allocations, um, he's not factored in as one of those guys that have earned an automatic berth for your conference.
Right.
So now you've got 6 quality wrestlers vying for one less spot because he doesn't have enough matches in, if that makes sense.
Right. And so to me, what you just said is the 5 or 6 matches that they have to get in is kind of a buffer to make sure that the kid isn't hurt and really still hurt. And they're just getting him in on that, like he went out and wrestled a match and against a no ranked guy and had an easy win, and now he's going to get this allocation. And he's still hurt and is probably just going to flame out anyway. So that makes sense. So I'm going to go back to the Keeter situation. So Keeter has 2 matches. If he were to, and the reason what made me think about this was the Last Chance Open. Would we have seen him wrestling that to get to that 5 match threshold or whatever it is? Do you think
that's a good question. And if there's any other, I don't know if there's any other opens. That's where like the Jimmy Fox or the Dubuque Open, stuff like that comes into play if there are D1 wrestlers that are there, but that'd be a good question to see if he could go there and get those matches in instead. We talked about it. Uh you said you thought Keeter was going to go, and I was like, there's no chance. I just thought that they were set on Hill. I thought if they were going to go with Keeter, he would have been the guy that went against Michigan. And since they sent Hill out there, I just figured, okay, well, they're going to go with Hill and redshirt Keeter. And now I don't know. And, he went out against Kirk Vallette. I'm guessing he's got to go the next 2 because Hill's already got his wins, his matches under his belt. I'm guessing Keeter's got to go the rest of the way in case they want to use him.
right? And I think
or maybe the result from Friday showed, maybe it's better to redshirt him. I'm not sure.
That's what I was just going to say. If we see him in the lineup from here on out, they're going with him. If we don't, that match last Friday told them what they wanted to see.
Mm-hmm.
Not ready. At least not ready for what they were hoping for.
Right. So I hope that clears it up. That's my understanding.
Yeah, that's good. Good explanation. Thank you on
that. And like we said, Iowa State, UNI, they're off until those duels with Missouri. Again, at UNI on the 23rd, at Iowa State on the 25th. UNI's last duel is a home duel against Wisconsin on the 25th. So they'll get 2 duels in that weekend before the Big 12s on March 9th and 10th. And we can talk about those later. A couple results from the D3 competition. Or go ahead.
The Bremner Cup. That's what I was just going to say. With the Cole versus Cornell, that's always a big one in any sport, and that's a neat rivalry that they have, and that they kind of vied for that and made that a big deal. However, I think Co has kind of owned that, at least in a lot of sports. I don't know about the, I have to put them all together how it's gone, but I know Co's kind of owned it in football, and I think even in basketball, and certainly in wrestling. They owned it this year as well, 30-14 over Cornell, though Cornell was pretty competitive and did a nice job. They got they get 3 wins, so
three wins, bonus points, and 2 of them.
Right, and I was a bit surprised at 84, a little bit.
Very much so.
Yeah, Cale McLaren, who's been wrestling very, very well for Cornell, won the last tournament he was in, and he's ranked number 14th, beat number 12 Jared Voss, who has not been wrestling particularly well this recently, though he's had tougher competition with McLaren and then with Hortberg. But the result was that he got pinned, and that's what surprised me.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Seeing it was a fall. That's what kind of opened the eyes a little bit there.
Right. So hopefully both those guys can get qualified and get into the national tournament. And of course, we're familiar with the Voss family and very fond of them. So best of luck to Jared there. He's been officiating out whenever he's able to get out there, and you don't see that very much in a college athlete that's out officiating on maybe on a Sunday or whatever when he has a day off. They like to sit down and relax a little bit and kind of recover, but no, he's out there giving back, so that's a neat thing.
A few of the results, this is much closer than the national duel. I think we recognized that was Cornell was a little shorthanded, in Cedar Falls for that one. So this one closer, but you got some key wins for Co as well. Matthew Arsenault at 197 with a win over Trey Steffen 7-5. Will S. Moyle with a pin at 165. I think he's really positioned himself well for a run here in the postseason. I think Bryce Park won by technical fall is Dresden Grimm at 33-41. Gabe Smith for Cornell, a technical fall over Dylan Falk at 57. So I think the two teams have some really strong individuals that will be interesting to watch at the regional tournament, the Lion Energy Powerhouse here coming up in a little bit.
Right. You mentioned two matches in particular. Arsenault was 11th ranked, got a nice win over Steffen, 16th ranked, and 84 and 97 were the two matches where he had ranked wrestlers going against each other. And then Gabe Smith also ranked 16th from Cornell at 57 over Dylan Falk from Co/Kennedy. But he had a technical fall win, so that was impressive. And we've been listening to the coaches talk highly of Smith. I think he's from Idaho, from out west, northwest, one of the states out there. I can't remember now which one it is. Anyway, and I believe he's only a sophomore too. Could be wrong there, but still pretty young there. So I'm excited to see that how well he does. So good. Both sides of the mat there are really pulling for a lot of their guys.
Mm-hmm. I believe Co still has a conference duel with Dubuque left on the slate. I'm not sure about.
That's on Friday, KJ.
Okay, so this Friday.
Yep.
Kind of tough. I always kind of wonder. I know they can't. They can't really change a lot, or they can't let high school schedules dictate. But it just kind of it just kind of surprises me that they would have a competition during the state tournament. I think coaches would want to try to avoid that so they can go down and watch some watch some of the recruits and maybe even kind of keep an eye out for some other people that may not be on their
Yeah.
radar. Um,
Now you got me thinking. I'm pretty sure it's Friday. I'm thinking that as well. Now that you say that, that's kind of unusual. Maybe it's the following Friday, but
well,
I know.
here I'll double I'll double check, but I'm sure you're correct. Um,
Okay,
because there for years the Big Ten would schedule Iowa for a home duel on the state semifinal Friday, and it's like, really? Come on, man. It's Thursday actually, so same difference. The
it is
15th,
Thursday. Okay,
you know,
yeah,
still in the middle of the state
yeah.
tournament, but um, you know, you got to get them in when you can. I mean, there are other things to factor in. So, not to mention, I know coaches are down there all the time anyway. They'll be there during the days, so um, they'll
The
get that in.
I know Cornell's is off until the 20th, and then they wrestle Augustana, uh,
Yep.
and then Loras, Luther, Warburg, they're all off until regionals, which makes sense. You kind of want that buffer period to one to get healthy if you need to,
Yep.
two, to get everything under control, and so that's nice to have that for those schools. Um, and then Warburg beat Loras 38-3, and Luther beat BV 44-9 in their last competitions this week. So then those, like I said, those schools are off until regionals. Yeah.
So we can jump into this later with the lower Midwest regionals, but just to get this out there for everybody watching. Uh, the lower Midwest regional will be held in Cedar Rapids this year at the Allied Energy Powerhouse. It's actually usually it's like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday competition. This year it's Thursday, Friday, February 29th, March 1st. I know they were trying to find uh, places to host because I think they were kind of left in a lurch trying to find a place, and Line Energy Powerhouse, I think, kind of stepped up here in Cedar Rapids, but was like, got to shift it because we've got stuff on that weekend. So it's a Thursday, Friday uh, competition this year. Not that that really makes much of a difference for the competitors, but hopefully some good crowds can get out to watch some really good wrestling on Thursday and Friday on the 29th and March 1st.
I think they've been flexible on that through the last 4 or 5 years.
Have they?
Kyle was going through because I think it was sometimes it was Friday, Saturday, sometimes it was Saturday, Sunday. It could have even been Thursday, Friday, but so I think they're flexible, probably based on what you're saying, the availability of the arena. Now I do know that they added at least 4 teams, maybe even 5 teams to the regional that already had 20 or 21 in it. I mean, it's crazy. And so they had to add 3 extra officials. And I mean, it's like come on, the lower Midwest is already the best of the 6 regions. And now we're adding 5, good. That's good. The growth is there, but let's kind of balance this out for goodness sakes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And, between the lower and upper Midwest, those 2 regionals are, that upper Midwest has like La Crosse, Augsburg, all those Wisconsin schools and Minnesota schools. So,
Meat
you know,
grinder.
between those two, both of them are, like you said, meat grinders for sure.
Oh, good. That way, that way, John Carroll and Stevens Institute of Technology can get extra qualifiers in.
Yeah. I do
I
know
said
that one
that
of
with
the,
sarcasm. Did you feel the sarcasm in my voice?
in my response, yeah, okay. I do know one of the officials that was added. Actually, 2 of them I'm aware of. Keith Pullen is added to the regional, and then Kent Sesker from here in Cedar
Oh,
added to it.
oh,
So good for Kent. He'll be able to cover that.
um, one other thing to note quickly: Wartburg with a win over Loris. I believe it was 38 to 3, maybe. But that win uh, locked up their 41st conference dual title between the American Rivers Conference and Iowa Conference. Um, they improved to 15-1 overall, 8-0 in the ARC, and that championship marks the uh, most conference championships by any team in any sport in the ARC.
How about that?
Yep. So, uh, we've seen teams challenge them. Loris, I think, right, a handful of years ago, beat them and broke that string of championships. Um, and then, as we mentioned last week, could have ended in a three-way tie, but um, Wartburg prevented that. Loris got a win from Gabe Pfizer at 157. Of course, the son of Travis Pfizer, wrestling for the Dewhawks there. Um, Joe Pins with a tech fall. I think we've mentioned this in the past, but he extended his record. He's 20-0 now for the Knights, but it's his 16th technical fall of the season. And he's got 41 in his career for the Knights and that's a program record. So he continues to do well for Wartburg.
Right. And, I'm a couple of thoughts on that. First of all, I'm betting he wished he had a pin in the Augsburg meet.
Yeah,
That would have
true.
might have been the difference. And then secondly, Cross Canone had that record before, and then I think it was at 38 or something to that effect. And Joe's Pat sat, and again with the 3-point takedown. Not that he wouldn't broken it anyway. I'm sure he would have, but
Right.
we just
Helps
talked.
his cause.
It's a little bit easier now, right now, and obviously we're pulling for Joe. Good guy, good family, really like him, and good wrestling people for sure.
Um, hey, I want to backtrack really quick. One thing from the D1 um, content or happenings. Want to make mention Tanner Sloan. He had a nice win this last week. He beat Stephen Buchanan from Oklahoma. Um, Beat him 4-1. Buchanan was ranked second um, at the time. Sloan was fifth. So um, a nice victory there for Sloan with South Dakota State, former Alburnett two-time state champion. Um, I love it, last year's state runner-up, and I love the fact that he was that close to being a Cohawk because of what he wanted to study and wanted to stay close to home. Um, but made the decision to go to South Dakota State. I think kind of very late in the process, and look what he's done. He's become one of the top wrestlers in the nation at 197. Has a world medal to show for it, and this week had a nice win at Oklahoma that sealed their dual win um, over the Sooners, 20-13, and then he followed it up with a 4-0 win over Luke Serber, who's ranked 15th for Oklahoma State, even though South Dakota State um, lost that duel to the Cowboys, who the only undefeated teams other than Penn State. And Sloan, 103rd career victory, which puts him 13th all time in uh, South Dakota State history.
National runner-up, Tanner. Man, that guy's a competitor. He is.
Mhm.
He's just farm tough. Let's just say
Yeah,
that.
that's I got a kick. It was like a couple, maybe a week after he wrestled in the national finals and was runner up. He was back home shearing sheep, you know,
Yeah.
um, where he was most comfortable. I remember seeing that um, after last year's NCAA tournament. So that tells you, yeah, literally farm tough.
Yeah.
Uh, and just one other thing too, the NWCA coaches released their D1 dual rankings. No surprise, Penn State, all 14 first place votes. Oklahoma State 2, Nebraska 3. Iowa drops to 4. Iowa State's number 5. And then UNI number 17 um, in the rankings. So Nebraska leapfrogs Iowa for third, and away we go.
That's what we talked about: Iowa, Michigan, Nebraska. This
Yeah.
week. But Nebraska deserves that. They wrestled Michigan, wrestled them tough. I would also add this, and most Iowa folks probably won't like my comment right here, but Cale Sanderson got his 200th victory over the Iowa
Oh,
guys, and what Cale Sanderson has done in the short time that he's been at Penn State is nothing short of phenomenal. I mean, that guy is. I mean, I don't have all the stats in front of me, but I think what has he been there 10 or 12 years maybe, and I mean he's had multiple national championships, multiple conference championships. You know how many national champions and multi-time national champions, and now potential four-time national champions. It's incredible. So I mean, good for him. But like I said, a lot of Iowans don't want to hear that. But
yeah, yeah.
it is what it is, man.
Salt in the wound a little bit, but
Yeah.
I also think they appreciate um, successful wrestling.
I would.
So, uh, Coach Briggs, why don't you send us out?
Let's keep wrestling on the move.